YouTube, it's Brian Phillips. Look at this. We've got the Blade 150 FX, which has a super cool, different style. Up on the top, you see that? That fly barless system is really cool. It's different, but the thing is, I must warn you, Horizon is calling this a skill level 1. I disagree. That's why we're in a huge echoey gymnasium that we got permission to borrow for a few minutes. And as you can see, this thing is really gorgeous, and that is one of its best features, is just the gorgeousness. Now you'll notice there's no taillight on. That is notably not on. That's because we have the throttle hold on, which is really cool that a throttle hold comes in a ready to fly. This does use Futaba FHSS, very surprisingly inside of a Blade product. But anyway, it is what it is. Also, there's a quick release on the bottom and you can put your battery in no time, which is a 320 milliamp custom Blade battery, a 2S LiPo. And yes, the polarity is backward on the output discharge lead, but the balance leads are normal. So there is an included charger. Just be very careful with those because they are opposite of what you're used to on the connector. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take the throttle cut off by taking it from the red position to the green. I'm in high rates and we're going to see how this does. So it just starts like that, and that's normal, and that's what you want. If you ever have to go pick it up, make sure you go to the red. Okay, so just like a throttle hold on any other vehicle we've got, except this idles at a low speed. Now throttle, and as you can see, the red tail light comes up, and now we've got plenty of power. About 50 to 60% throttle is gonna bring you up. You can see the blue light on this side, and on this side we have a green light. So you can keep your coordinates, do your coordinated turns. You can make it look super cool, which is all sorts of fun. And then obviously we have this big, huge room, so we're gonna try to use it a little bit to our advantage. Normally we don't fly inside of a big gymnasium, but it's really cool. We got this opportunity to fly here, and so we're gonna take advantage. And one thing I must warn you is that if you have a helicopter that's capable like this, you may be inclined to fly it in your living room. Well, we did that in our Unbox build radio setup, and I can tell you this thing drifts a lot. As you can see, it wanted to crash. It was like trying to commit Harry Carey. So I was like, no soup for you. So as you can see, it is drifting a lot, okay? Although it does keep its spatial awareness and it basically keeps auto leveled very nicely, it does not stay in one tight spot very well. And that's both from turbulence, and I don't know if you guys saw those big air ducts up there just went erect. These ones are limp because there's no air pressure, and those ones in the background just went erect as we were starting, which means there's air that's blowing through this huge room. And it's just so cool because honestly, in a big space, this thing is super fun to fly. But I must warn you, you're probably thinking for the money you're paying for this, you're gonna get the ability to go out of auto leveling and into some sort of a 3D flight mode. That is where you would be incorrect. As you can see, it's in auto leveling and there is no way to articulate out of the auto leveling mode. Plus, we're in a Futaba FHSS protocol, so I can't, with the equipment I have, actually go in and figure out if there's some sort of a control somewhere to change that. But it's a ready to fly. It comes equipped with everything you need to fly, which is pretty awesome. And for that reason, it's definitely got value and it's very beautiful. But I want to just warn you, this is not as easy as it looks to fly. And so if you're flying in a quadruple gymnasium, which is essentially what we have here, then you're going to be golden. But I do want to warn you, you need to be aware that this helicopter is going to make you fly it. As you can see, I keep bumping the ground. You better be on top of it with your throttle management. Otherwise, you're going to have issues. And I just want to warn you, coordinate your turns. It'll make it look a lot more realistic. What I mean by that is this. As you turn, use both sticks. Now that's going to be something you wouldn't have to do on a regular helicopter with proper full controls. Because look, this is full cyclic, or I don't know if that's the right terminology. Somebody's going to tell me though in the comments below. And then this is full the other direction, and that's in high rates. And low rates, you can see it's even slower, which is to be expected. So just keep in mind, you're going to be limited on how fast you can go. You're going to be limited on how quick you can change directions. And you're also going to have to fight a little bit of trim issues, because as you can see, even though it's held still, now it's going back. You can trim as simple as this, a couple clicks forward, and then it stops, and then we're gonna go up a little bit. A lot of the helicopters we're seeing these days, I can press one button, it'll take off and hold position both up and down and with respect to its levelness. So that's not something you're gonna get with this. The auto leveling is very good, but there is no barometer to speak of that I can tell. And if there is, it's not being well engaged. So that being said, I just wanna tell you, right up and over, the thing looks amazing, and it's definitely less stressful to fly in a larger arena like this, and it's super fun. So we're super thankful to have opportunity to come into this gymnasium and film. So definitely something that's cool. And if you guys are looking for a fun, but not necessarily entry-level heli, I think this would be an option for you. I must say though, some of the stuff we've been seeing in similar price points might be a little bit more engaging. It won't be as beautiful. So honestly, my biggest thing with this helicopter is the new technology that they're calling out and implementing on the flybarless control. And that's one of the things I really, really, really like about this heli. So if you guys have an opportunity to pick one up, I would definitely consider it, but I do want you guys to be aware you are not gonna be looking at a skill level 1, in my opinion. I would say a skill level 2, and if you're in a tighter environment, then 4 basketball courts, which doesn't make it quite easy. Do you wanna try it in here?
Do I wanna try it in here?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. The other thing too is I must say we crashed it a couple of times, and if you stay tuned for the Unbox build radio setup, which will follow on this video, then definitely check it out. You can see our struggles also coincided with a really, really windy condition, which is part of the reason why we're filming inside today, is because it's been incredibly windy around our parts, and we have been unable to film outside with several major newer releases, and we wanted to get this footage out for you. And also keep in mind with daylight savings, of course, we're gonna be looking at losing our beautiful sun in the end of the day, which is so frustrating to me as an RC pilot, as a full-scale pilot, technically too, in the PPG realm, for whatever that means.
So now having flown it in here in a bigger space,
I love it.
Do you think it's gonna do okay in a little bit of wind? Not what we have right now.
Not really.
But
no, not right now. It would do terrible.
Well, no, it'd be terrible right now.
Because the wind is so incredible that the mirrors on my brand new pickup truck were shuddering.
Yes.
Because it's so windy. And also, I just want to point out something. In high rate, that was low rate, that passed. You can go really quick, but the thing is you have to know how to mix controls to keep altitude and then translate that to forward motion. So as you can see, because you know me and you know that I have the skills to fly a little radio controlled helicopter, it's not really all that difficult. It's just more that you have to anticipate. You have to anticipate. And like to touchdown, it's not hard to land by any means. Also, I just want to see what happens when I throttle cut it. As you can see, it just whirligigs back down. And then as soon as you go back down to 0, you put it to red, and I'm gonna go back to green, let it spool back up, and then we can take back off. You'll notice the red light goes darker red, or not darker, but deeper, brighter red when you give throttle to actually go ahead and take off, which is super cool. I'm gonna show you that again if you guys didn't notice. A little bit of throttle there, we'll take a landing here. And then when I bring it down, you can see the light shuts off. When you bring it up, it spools up. And as you can see, once you start to engage the throttle, you can see the red light go up, which is really nice. It's good feedback for an operator that's maybe a little bit lesser skilled. And so just to be clear, Horizon and Blade are calling this a skill level 1. I would disagree with them pretty adamantly on this, that this is more of like a skill level 2. It's more for a skilled pilot. And also, I think it would be a good transitory state between somebody that flies fixed wing a lot, because it flies a lot like an airplane that you can slow down. And the people that fly airplanes are gonna really appreciate the way it flies, I think. But at the same time, ooh, look, so we got our low battery warning is flashing on the green, but the blue is not flashing. Ooh, that's not so good. So what if you happen to be flying in this circuit versus flying in that circuit? Well, I guess you're gonna crash. So let's try to take a landing right at our feet here. So as you can see, the drift, and we've got the throttle hold on. So just to be clear, folks, we really appreciate what Blade does. I know that some of you guys that are really heli aficionados think that there's, you know, maybe a little bit greener grass on the other side, and that may be true, but I just wanna make sure that we speak the truth of what we've experienced on this aircraft here. I like the way it flies. If you have an unobstructed environment that's big, it's really fun. If you have a tight environment and you really want it to be super ultra tight controls, I don't think this mechanism is gonna give it to us, guys. Not with a little 2S battery. You're gonna have more rotor speed. You're gonna have to overwhelm the environment better than this does. I don't think you can do that with a 2S. I just don't think you have enough power. Also, brushed motor and brushed motor does not lead to tons of power. You can see it's brushed. You can see the heatsink right there, folks. So I just want you guys to hear me when I say this. Okay, we review tons of aircraft and we do a lot of Horizon stuff. And you guys know I'm a Horizon fanboy. It's like our biggest brand that we really love. And it's like my all-time favorite brand. And we've worked with them for a long time and they've done a lot of good things with us on our channel and all that good stuff. But I must say, this particular aircraft is not gonna be my favorite one. But it's not because it's a bad aircraft. It's just not what I think they're putting it out as. I don't think this is a beginner level aircraft. I think it's more of like an intermediate to experienced level aircraft. And in those hands, I think you're gonna enjoy it. But then I feel like, okay, now that we're into that realm, we need a way to shut off the auto leveling to really make it work. And so that's part of the reason why I feel like this is maybe a bit of a mismatch, not a bad heli. It's maybe a bit of a mismatch. Now that being said, it is a ready to fly, which makes it a good value because you get everything you need with the exception of ours didn't come with 4 AA's, which is something that customarily on Horizon products we got. So, I mean, what's it cost us? For our batteries, about $1 for 1,000?
Yeah, something like
we
that.
get the crappiest batteries you get. They're like 2 milliamp hours. They last for 3 minutes and then they leak immediately.
Yep.
So of course we get those at Harbor Freight on extra sale. It's like the ones they dropped out of the truck while they were still driving at 80 miles an hour and we get those on discount. But I mean, we have like 400 of these transmitters. Might be a slight exaggeration, but either way,
not much.
My point is this, if you're looking for a good value, I feel like it's still probably a little bit of a stretch because it's expensive. So keep in mind when you deal with Horizon, they'll back up their products. So at least you know a baseline of what you're getting. And I want to talk about the positives of this aircraft. Positive number 1, LEDs on all 3 sides. Why do we not get LEDs on every helicopter? It's totally beyond me. It's very cheap to put LEDs on a helicopter. It's very easy to put them on. And so I think it should be on every aircraft. Now that is an indictment of Horizon as well, because we got the 330, we got the 230, and you got to add LEDs on the 230. I know that. So what I'm going to say is there's definitely qualities of this helicopter, and I think the predominant quality is the looks and the style. It's just a little bit different than what we've gotten in the past. And for that reason, it's got the cool factor. But I would really like to see a little bit more out of this thing. I'd like to see direct drive. I'd like to see 3S. I'd like to see, honestly, a little bit bigger, which is surprising because if you're trying to hit this price point, you know, you've got some big shoes to fill. So that being said, hopefully this was a good review and you guys understand we're not trying to bash anybody because we really do like this product. But is it the best product at this price point? I don't know. You guys are the judge of that. So stay tuned. You can watch us open it up and get the charger set up. And I do show how to charge it on a conventional charger versus the included charger if you decide to charge several of them. Just be very mindful that your battery lead is swapped. Okay, the positive and negative, the polarity is swapped. So don't catch yourself on fire. Also, just an absolutely gorgeous thing. I think I mentioned about 7 or 8 times because honestly, I feel like that is the prime suspect here. It is the best looking and it is really cool. And so that's one of the big reasons they can get away with it. Also, to be frank, because they're an American company selling, even if it is a Chinese product like everybody else sells, they do follow all the rules and following the rules is a little bit more expensive. So you may find that there's a small premium on some of the items that they're being offered. So just keep that in mind, guys. But I do really like this. Oh, and then also that brings me to one more detail I just want to bring up. If you want to help support American companies like Brand Phillips RC, then buy this thing from the link in the video description below. And if you actually hate this thing and you just think it's garbage and you hate the way it flies and you hate the fact that you can trim it out easily and it's ready to fly, it's got that cool new rotor design, then we have all sorts of other ones. You know, we are not hinged by this one particular aircraft. We love bringing you the best. And so the thing is, you guys get to make up your mind. We don't know what you're thinking. We don't know what you want, but we do know that this thing looks good. We know that it flies good in a quadruple gymnasium. It's totally fun. And the thing is, it would work good on a very calm day. I think you could maybe get away with 2 or 3 miles an hour wind and you'd be very comfortable. Now, 5, 6, 7 miles an hour, you're gonna start to lose forward authority and you're gonna lose this thing. But getting back to my point, if you wanna support us, buy these things from the links. The commissions come to us from the companies that make these things, and you're like, it's not a conflict of interest. You know, it's really not a conflict of interest because we don't care what you buy. If you don't like this particular plane, or Heli rather, just buy another one. We don't care what you buy, but the thing is, we do want to bring you the truth and give you a baseline for what to expect. And yes, we don't work for Horizon, we work with them. So the thing is, if this thing is a turd, we're going to tell you it's a turd. This is not a turd. We have reviewed turds, okay, for this brand. We try not to talk about them, but at the same time, you know, they exist. So this one is definitely not turdish. It's just a little bit of a mismatch. I think it's more of like a skill level too. So really, if that's the mistake, then I think they should own it. But at the end of the day, this thing is a pretty cool Heli. And also, we want to show you what it does in our house, in our small little environment. We have high ceilings. We have a pretty big room. It's like 30 by 40. It's still a pretty good sized room. It's like half the size of not quite half the size of a basketball court. But the thing is, you can see how it does or how it doesn't do. And we always show it the way we see it on Brian Phillips RC. If that includes crashing, that includes crashing. So hopefully you guys can give us a pat on the back on that for that. And also, definitely smash the like button. Please, if you like the product, smash the like button. If you hate the product, but you like the way that we shared the information with you, smash the like button. We have to point that out once in a while because I fear that sometimes when people don't like a particular product, they don't like the video because they're like, well, if I like the video, then that means I like the product. That's not the way it works on YouTube, just to be totally clear. You're liking what we brought and not necessarily what Horizon or whoever else we happen to be reviewing for that day brought. So let's make that really clear so it's helpful. And then also we have PayPal and Patreon if you want to support us in those ways. Special thanks to our current Patreons. We really do appreciate you. You guys are awesome. And it's humbling to see the gifts that come through PayPal every month. We just did that yesterday. So it's really cool that you guys really care about us that much, so thanks so much. And also a special thanks to Horizon for working with us on these things, because the thing is, they let us tell the truth about the products that they're trying to sell, which is pretty big of them. Let's be frank. So that being said, guys, so much more from Brian Phillips RC, but in the meantime, we're gonna show you the Unbox build and radio setup. There's hardly any build, we just basically set up the battery charger. So stay tuned, and then you can see an indoor flight and kind of make up your own mind. Thanks for watching. YouTube, Brian Phillips. We have a box. Super exciting. It's kind of dark outside and a little bit dreary, and I hate when it gets dark early like this, but that's what happens in fall in Iowa. What do we have here? We have a bunch of packaging. Then we have a battery. Amazing. What does the battery go for? It goes for the 150 FX. Amazing. 332 millimeters blades. This is gonna be amazing. This is from Blade. It is an awesome little Heli, and we're gonna open it right now, and it's gonna be so much fun. I'm super excited for this thing. We saw it come out, and we were like, oh, that's nice to know about. And then we were like, yeah, we must have one. We have some instructions here, which is always kind of nice. Okay, it looks like a thank you with like a registration card, so we'll go ahead and file that permanently. And what we have inside the box, we have a charger, which is nice. Looks like it's got a 2S balanced charge port. And of course, this one's got a nice, actually, silicone wire. That's kind of nice. And it looks like we have a battery right here, which is a Blade LiPo battery, 2S, 320 milliamps. And I believe that's what we have here, 2S, 320 milliamp hours. So we're gonna open that as well. Now, this was ordered separately from the aircraft, so it will supplement. Now, there's nothing wrong with using other packs, but just keep in mind this has the low C connector. I always call it a low C, but it's actually called a Molex, and then a regular balance lead. Looks like these are silicone leads as well, which is nice. So let's go ahead and show you how this charges before we continue on too much further, because you're on Brian Phillips RC. We always show you the whole process, and we're gonna give you actually two different options for charging. And the first of which is gonna be just the generic grab whatever charger you've got here. Of course, you can plug it into your computer, you can plug it into your tablet, or not your tablet probably. I don't think most tablets have a USB charging capability, but if they did, you can imagine what it'd be like, okay? Then plug in the balance lead, and you'll see there's a flashing green light, so it looks like that's gonna be good. I don't know how fast it charges, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna show you an alternative charging method. And this, why don't we use the S155, which is an amazing little charger. It's gonna go up to 4S, which is nice, but in this, you're gonna get an IC5 connector and an IC3 connector, which is really nice for all your smart batteries. This, of course, is not a smart battery. It's just a dumb battery, but it is a new battery, and this one happens to have Velcro on it, which is really nice. So you could also get yourself an S2200, which is gonna be a dual channel, which means you can charge 2 simultaneously, which is really nice. In my case, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you the way that I like to do it, which is with this balance board, okay? It's just got a bunch of different random plugs on it. I'm gonna actually take this adapter off because I use lots of different charging methods, and I have long since built this little adapter, which takes me from an EC3 to an XT60, back to an XT60, which then splits off to a bunch of Molex ends. And you're like, well, why do you have so many of those? Because when you have equal age, equal wear, and equally discharged batteries, you can parallel charge them safely. But I'm just gonna show you with one. And so in this case, it should be quite simple. Of course, this is going to plug in as though it had now an EC3, which of course this is an EC3, and that plugs into an IC3 without a smart lead. Battery polarity connection. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna look at this real quick and just take a look, guys. That's why that doesn't work. See this? There is a positive and a negative, and they are opposite from what we expected. Very good thing there's polarity protection there. And so I just want to show you what's going on here. This balance lead is lined up as it were on a normal balance lead. Let's find another 2S pack. So a 2S pack, similar to this. That's actually a 3S pack, my apologies. Here's a 2S pack. That's got the different E-Flight style end. So as you can see, there's lots of different ends. And what I'm looking for is just a conventional battery that we can easily compare. This is 3S as well. This one's 3S as well, but let's just use that for good comparison. You can see that the polarity is the same on that because these are always the same. The balance leads are almost always the same, but the discharge lead is sometimes backward. So, warning for all of you that want to use your other batteries, the polarity could be backward on there. So, one thing to note is if you ever need to build one of these backward, you can actually do that. So just keep in mind the polarity does need to agree because that would be somewhat devastating if you were to charge it backward, okay? So this is the balance lead. Now you can sometimes charge just straight off of the balance port and leave the main discharge out of the circuit, but not on these type of circuits. So I'm gonna show you how to do that, but we're gonna pause and I'll come right back. Okay, so guys, in a pinch, this is only in a pinch, you can also buy the correct part. Follow the link in the video description below. This is how you would disassemble this connector. This is a male pin and there is a retainer clip here. So what you could do is you can switch this by using an X-Acto knife or similar and press down very lightly, and you can actually push that pin down. That's a retainer clip, okay? And the idea is you want to do it without stabbing yourself, preferably. Okay, I've got this on a hard surface, and as you can see, once you get it released, you can pull it straight back. And that's the way you do it. Of course, it's not really working very good now, is it? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this one pressed down. Our crew who knows how to film this stuff, it's fighting me big time. So I'm going to get this first one and I'll get the second one on camera. Okay, so folks, sorry I ran into problems there. I was just pushing and I just didn't want to stab myself on camera. I did that a while ago. It was fun. See how this comes out? And I'm going to show you from the side. See this right here with the X-Acto knife.
Wait, also? Okay, let's see.
So you can catch that tab with the blade, but you got to really be in there with the blade, okay? And this little tab will allow you to lift. And once you lift it, then you can push it back in and it will catch again. So I don't know if you guys have figured out how you're going to do this if you do it. I just want to warn you, this polarity is in fact backward from many connectors. So you need to be aware of it. You see how that's all now releases it. And then you can switch them, okay? So what I do when I have a weird proprietary connector like this is because I don't take I'm really careful about marking it, but the thing is I now have a balance lead. And here's the danger, and I want to just point this out to you because this is something that I'm going to show you and you need to be aware of it. Okay, so look at this. See, this is now red over here. okay? And then this is now black. So I show this very visually so that you can see what I'm talking about. So if you were to use this, my only way to recommend this would be if you only use all 4 of them or 5 of them or 3 of them or whatever it is. You have to do all of them. Because right now, if I plugged 1 in here and 1 in here, they would dead short and you would be poof. And it would actually weld the connectors together. It's that fast. Okay, but this is just going to here and it's gonna get the polarity corrected, okay? So now I know that's the one I want because I can see my colors will match, okay? So now watch this. Weird how we defeated the proprietary in just mere seconds. Now watch this. Oh, look, 7.6 volts. See guys, it's not really all that complicated, okay? Oh, look at that. It's working like a charm. Can you go over so they can get a straighter shot of it? Okay, and as usual, the lighting is very hard to do on these. I'm gonna press start. I'm gonna scroll up and change that from 2.2 amps, a little bit too fast. It should be about 0.3 amps. Press play. Oops, wrong way. Scroll down to 0.3, and then we can go to start and press start. And there you have it, guys. That's another way to charge it. Now, the reason I show you that is not to encourage you to do the wrong thing and catch your batteries on fire. You have to always be aware of polarity, and that's why we show you stuff like that on Brian Phillips RC, because we know that you're gonna do it anyway. So we wanna teach you how to do it in a safe way. Now also, you could just use that doohickey right there. And it's not like I don't have literally thousands of these things, maybe not thousands, but I have hundreds of these things sitting around, and I happen to have 2 of them. Here's one from a competitive brand. Right there. So since the balance lead, the Hextronics balance port is the same, you can validate that by using whatever the battery that came with this to make sure that your negative is at the same position as the negative is on that. So anyway, getting back to the whole point, if you have proprietary battery in the future and you're like, hey, how do I make this work? Well, this might be the tip you need. So getting back to the point, now the reason we show you 2 different methods of charging is because these chargers historically have not been our favorite to work with because they are usually not super fast. But in this case, this will be fine for a small battery. We're not charging particularly fast anyway, but you could technically charge quite a bit faster with that S155. It's 55 watt charger on 1 channel, whereas the S2200 is 200 watts on 2 channels, and that's a pretty big amount of power. All right, cool. Also, if you open up that battery and you're buying it separately, you get this handy dandy guide, which is super nice. I've talked about this a couple of times throughout our time on YouTube, but look at the connector guide. This is super nice. If you guys are not familiar with connectors, this will give you the name of each style. And this is not every single one, but it's pretty awesome. Do a close-up shot of that real quick, because if we're talking about batteries, we might as well share it, and it'll be helpful for some guy that's getting into the hobby and saying, goodness gracious, I don't even know what this is. I just have Dean's, which I thought was called the T plug. And now you're thinking to yourself, I thought I was watching a video about helicopter. You are. I just haven't got there yet. Okay, so opening up the helicopter, we see also we come with a spare prop, which is really nice for the tail rotor. So that's pretty nice. And then over here, we've got a screwdriver. It looks like a Phillips and another type of Phillips. And then some extra washers, like spring washers maybe. And then inside of here, we have the extra fins, which go to the main rotors, but they make them kind of hard to get out. They're wrapped up nicely, so it looks like a left and a right, which is nice, or a 1 and a 2. I don't know if they're actually designated separately. And then, of course, the bunny shot, the helicopter. Oh, she's so beautiful. That is so sweet. I love the sleek body on that thing. It looks so cool. And then what does this say? This says, it will rotate at low speed when starting. Okay. And then there's a power button on top. And then it looks like there is a linkage that reaches through. This has this very interesting fly barless configuration there. Of course, we have a heat sink on top of what looks like maybe a brushed motor. And then underneath we have this thing here, which I don't even know what that is, but it looks like probably something so we can open the bottom. So let's just try it. That's cool. No tools required, which is always nice. Okay, so then this bottom opens. Oh, that is so sweet. Very nice. And there's your plug. So guys, if you don't like having proprietary things, oh, it looks like there's a flywheel on this too. That's really different. We haven't seen that before. I could be mistaken. That may not be a flywheel, but it looks like a flywheel to me. And a flywheel would be, camera crew?
You're asking the wrong person on that one.
A thing that spins that's heavy. Stores kinetic energy.
Oh.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's what I'm seeing, but I need my X-Acto knife to cut off this warning that says it starts on its own or whatever it says, which is kind of a weird way of saying it in my opinion. But such is life. We have noticed that a little bit in the hobby realm. We do tend to get the Jinglish once in a while. Okay, so we're gonna rip that and unwrap here. Okay, so when we think about Christmas ideas, I don't know if you guys think about this sort of thing, but I can definitely tell you this. One warning, because you're coming to Brian Phillips RC for assistance, getting into the hobby, maybe continuing back into the hobby, or maybe you're brand new. But either way, when you buy a gift like this, if you have more than one person that's gonna be playing in the general vicinity, it's always a good idea to get 2 at least. Maybe 3, because there's gonna be some poor schlub that gets left out and they're gonna be hating themselves. Now, under here, you may notice there's a transmitter, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and pull that out. Okay, so there's nothing else under there. So this is a real small controller. It's clearly marked as a 150 FX. That's nice. Feels good, actually. It's got a good size to it for being a ready-to-fly heli. Okay, so there's evidently a data port under there. That's interesting. There actually looks like there might be adjustments for the tension on the sticks. And this has a room for 4 AA batteries. Okay, and I'm just gonna close that back up. Throttle down, yaw left, yaw right. There is what appears to be a light, powers over here. 2.4 gigahertz FHSS transmitter, what? Okay, green dot is the rate at low speeds. And then just read that for us, camera crew.
Green dot is rate at low speeds.
Yeah, so green dot is like the low speeds. This is the higher speeds. But then why does it say low high over here? That is very irregular, if you ask me. Okay, well, we're gonna take that off right now because that's already confusing. And there is a lanyard mount point if you fly with a lanyard, although I don't generally fly with lanyards on helicopters of this nature. So as you can see, everything will pack up nice and neat inside of the box. If you want to use this as a carrying case, there isn't a handle on it for what it's worth, but it is really nice to have that good retail style packaging, and there are instructions here. Now, for those of you that aren't aware, FHSS is a Futaba protocol, which is kind of strange that they would use a Futaba protocol on a Spectrum product or a Spectrum mothership Horizon Hobby blade product. But here we are. So we're gonna continue. And if you wanna look here, camera crew, there's instructions that talk about how to load things. They talk about charging. They talk about all sorts of good things. The elevator is also the cyclic, and then so this would be this is not the cyclic. So this goes over here, that tips everything. So with the tail pointed towards you, when you lean forward, everything, imagining a plate, would move like this. When you roll to the left, it moves like this, and so on and so forth. And when you do this, it changes the speed of the brushed motor that spins your tail rotor, and that changes how much it counters. And there's also an LED here and here, which is really nice that that's built in. And so I think what our next move is gonna be sliding the battery in. That's the calibrate switch. That's an interesting place. Okay, so there's a lot of kind of one-offs on this helicopter. So I just want you guys to be aware, if you're used to doing Blade 330S or 230S, or even some of the other small Infusion 180s or the 150S, I just want you guys to be aware that these helis are going to be more along the lines of normal. This is gonna be more along the lines of, you know, open it up as a ready to fly. But to give you a size comparison here, this would be a very capable, does everything helicopter. and you can see it's not that much bigger. But with something like this, of course, you're gonna get a brushless motor, and you're gonna get a geared brushless motor down here. But there are ways to go into a direct drive from Blade. And I believe the first one would be on the Infusion 180, where you've got a direct drive where their motor is driven directly rather than a gear like this has, okay? This also has a very small brushless motor running the fans on the tail. So just keep in mind there's a lot of different choices on Helis. Helis are a whole different breed. Of course, we do Helis here on Brian Phillips RC, and our mainstay is fixed wing aircraft, but we do a lot of Helis, and we also do a lot of quads and things like this. So let's check and see. We're still flashing, so obviously as this flashes, you're not gonna know how much battery you have. So one thing you can do is use one of these XBC battery checkers, which is also gonna test servos for you, which is super nice. So what I'm gonna do is I'll unplug this battery, and just to show you this is not a smart battery, you can still use this to test, just make sure your polarity is right. Kicks it on, we're about 72%, so that might be enough for our test for now. Ordinarily, you wanna let these things charge all the way up, but for the sake of our video, we're gonna go ahead and get this thing fired up. So we've already got the bottom dropped out. We need to get some double A's, and we'll come right back. All right, so we're gonna pop off the back of this cover here. The flat side goes to the springs, flat side goes to the spring, and so on and so forth. Flat side to the spring and flat side to the spring. These are the world's cheapest batteries. I didn't notice them in the box. You know what? I didn't even think. A lot of times they come with batteries, but I didn't notice them in there.
I didn't see them
Maybe I missed them. If I did, I apologize, folks. Okay, so we're gonna turn this on. Okay, so you had a singular flash with the blue light. And I don't see anything else. Okay, so that's the way that looks. Okay, so with this open, carbon fiber reinforcements, pretty cool, very small Velcro setup. This is gonna obviously go in like that. Now remember, this is only 72%, so don't hold that against the helicopter because that's just our scheduling dilemma. Looks like there's a place to kind of feed this through, which is nice. That keeps it away from the flywheel there. Okay, so I don't know if you guys can tell kind of what I'm doing. I'm just sliding this through. And remember, it's gonna be a lot harder to do this. If you don't get that in the right position, it's gonna be a problem, okay? And that thing is hinged, it's a little bit tight, but you can definitely get it done. Okay, so just going to plug this in. It only goes one way, it's keyed. There's a blue light that comes and it snaps to life here. So I'm gonna lay this flat. Now I would like to be able to say, okay, once we get this laid down, we're gonna flip the switch. That needs to go forward just a hair. So you're kind of locked into the only position you can put it is the position it needs to be. But you can see what I'm fighting here. I need to get this connector underneath there as well. See what I did? Then that screw protrudes from the top. There we go, guys. Okay, now I can just spin this a few times. Just get that started. This is a really light body, but then the landing gear heavier duty. So I don't know if you guys can tell. You can use a flat bladed screwdriver, but I don't think you need to. So 1, 2, 3 count points. Okay, so we're gonna lay that down. I'm gonna put this to red, or excuse me, to green. I'm gonna press the power button here. Okay, now I can't tell if this is gonna work yet. Okay, it stopped flashing. So remember how it said it might spin slow? So let's see what happens. I'm in low rate, and green was the lower rate, evidently. I don't see any movement here, so I'm gonna carefully flip the switch. There's a green flashing light over here. Now I'm in red. So I'm gonna go to the red switch. I'm gonna go to the green switch. Up, down, nothing's changed. Okay, so we're gonna look at the manual for just a quick second and see if we need a calibration after connecting a fully charged battery. Closing the battery tray, place it on a flat level obstruction-free surface and move the calibrate switch to the green dot position. Okay, so the green dot position is here. Okay. Calibrate takes about 10 seconds. When complete, the blue light stops flashing and it remains. Walk back 30 feet. Okay, and then fly. Okay, so stick up, stick down, still nothing. Arm sticks down and out, nothing. Okay, so I may need to do one more step. Take off. When you're ready to fly, lower the throttle stick to the lowest position and move the throttle cut switch to the green dot. Okay, so the green dot is over here. I still don't see any activity, which makes me think it's maybe not bound. Okay, so the motor will spin at low idle speed and respond to throttle commands. If the main rotor do not start promptly when the throttle is first applied after the throttle is unlocked, immediately return the throttle to idle and try again. If the problem persists, disconnect the flight pack and check for binding in the gear train. Yeah, I don't see that at all. Okay. So I'm going to the red dot and then back to the green, and I still don't see any change in state. So I'm gonna play with this and come right back and tell you what I did. All right, guys, so just to be clear, we switched batteries, okay? So I'm laying this back down. When I say switch batteries, it was not actually charged enough to actually start. So that's what happened. Now you can see I have a solid green light here, and, or excuse me, a solid blue light, and we have not flashing light. It is a solid green over here, okay? So I'm just gonna put these blades out for cool factor. And as you can see, it's moving now. So that means the binding process, it wasn't like it wasn't bound. We put in a battery that was at 72%. Evidently that's not enough to actually initiate the transaction between this and that. So just to be clear, sorry for my misread on that. We're gonna try to take off now. Okay, no change, no change. I'm gonna go to green. There it goes. So now camera crew, protect yourself just in case. So as I said, it's gonna spin slow, so we'll just see what happens. Oh yeah, nice and solid. And we'll just crash it immediately. Okay, so as you can see, it was drifting a little bit. There are standard trim controls on this. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna trim it, but I'm gonna get a little bit of altitude. I'm just gonna bring it up in front of us here. I need to go to high rates, I think. Part of our problem tonight is that we actually have a breeze going through our house because our windows are open. That thing looks sweet.
It does.
But it's definitely wandering a lot. As you can see, there is a red light on the tail. Yep, it's red on both sides. And then there's a green light on your side. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna basically try to I can't trim it with the wind though. I think I'm gonna land in the living room. And it's definitely got auto leveling. So if you let go of the sticks, it's gonna stay put. Sticks down, it's just gonna idle slow. I'm gonna let go of the sticks, and we're probably gonna have to shut our windows so we can get this thing trimmed. We'll be right back. Okay, so full disclosure, that's one of the first times we've closed windows to film a helicopter in here. But I am feeling a lot more confident. It's kind of got like a hesitation to it. And as you can see, like I said, you're gonna have to protect yourself there. As you can see, it doesn't really damage stuff when it hits, but at the same time, I would definitely say that it's got a hesitation. So when you move, it kind of moves and then it kind of keeps moving. So you have to be prepared to move the sticks back. Okay, so I don't want to hit an airplane with it. So I'm gonna just, is there a way to stop it? Yes. Throttle cut, the red stops the throttle. So the sticker that was on here was supposed to be over here. I don't know why it was over here.
I don't understand.
That is so bizarre.
Yeah.
And plus all these controls are very unusual. So I'm not really sure what the deal is, but there's definitely auto leveling happening. The helicopter looks sweet. I'm just a little bit disappointed in the control characteristics. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take back off, throttle cuts back off, so it immediately spools up. Now just actually protect yourself. The camera crew is super dedicated to getting the shot, and I'm like, I'm not really worried like this is gonna hurt somebody, but I still don't wanna like hit myself. There's such a lag between input and movement that it's like somewhat undesirable, but it looks really dang good. And I like the way it looks, but the thing is, it's not super responsive. And I'm in high rates right now. No, I lied, I'm in low rates. I am in low rates. I'm gonna try high rates and see if that resolves that largely. But I wanna try to get 1 or 2 clicks of trim, but it wants to walk on me. So that's a couple clicks of trim from right to left. As you can see, it's correcting quite a bit. That's good. Oh, now it's holding nice and still. One click back, one click to the right. As you can see, it definitely wants to wander a little bit. There's not a ton of air current in this room now. And as much as I like the fact that there's bright LEDs, I don't necessarily care for the lag. The lag is not huge. Let's call it a couple milliseconds with the lag, but it's enough on a helicopter, it makes a big difference. So it reminds me of flying the Bluetooth controlled helicopters, you know, back when they thought you could do that, and it just never really did work. Now, I can definitely say I love the way the helicopter looks, but with our flight controllers that we've been seeing lately, I feel like this one is definitely lacking on the flight controller edge. Okay, I'm gonna put it down, and I'm gonna immediately turn the throttle hold on. Now, throttle hold is really helpful. I must say, of all the helicopters we've reviewed in recent history, we don't always get a throttle hold. So that is a feature that really should be on there. Now, another feature that should be on there is when you let go of the stick and it's all the way down, it should just stop, in my opinion. So this is definitely a different heli, okay? So I'm kind of trying to decide if I'm liking the way that it's controlling. It's definitely, I want you guys to watch the sticks and see if the camera crew is gonna try to film me flying it. It's unusually challenging to fly this. Now I am in low rates. I'm gonna go to high rates at some point. I'm gonna turn off the throttle cut, keep the tail pointed towards you. It definitely has auto leveling, so it's not like you have to really actively fly it once it's in the air, but look how much deviation from center there is. We've already walked forward quite a bit, and then you see I'm not, see how little I'm having to move the sticks to get it to go up like this, and then it kind of wanders up, so then you have to correct, okay? So now this is a different type of rotor design than we've seen in the past, so it's definitely, I think it's new, and you get into wash next to the counter, next to the couch, and that is something that we've seen with other helis, but I must say, it's definitely very spongy on control. So now when you get over here, you want to have really precise finite control, but I'm having to move the stick about 10% just to kind of keep and hold my altitude, okay? So as you can see here, just kind of going up and down. I'm talking about just hardly any movement. Now I'm gonna go to high rates after I get it away from us just a little bit in case it's super touchy. Okay, so now I'm in high rates. As you can see, it's definitely a little bit more responsive. I'm not feeling anything too crazy, but it's definitely flying okay. I think this thing would probably fly outside okay, but I obviously can't try that in the dark. But I could definitely say the high rates are actually preferable in my opinion. I feel like the high rates, it's more responsive, it's easier to control. The auto leveling is still characteristic on this. It's not like you're gonna lose your auto leveling when you got a high rate, but we're still getting a heck of an oscillation there. As you can see, I'm just gonna try to trim a couple clicks over. The trim is effective. As you can see, it stops it from wandering to the right like we're experiencing. So I'm just moving this little rocker over a little bit. And once you get up there, you may notice that there's not only a speed lag, but the pitch lag. So what's gonna happen is as you drop, the pitch is gonna change and you're gonna lag by slowing the motor down a little bit. So you'll note that there is a little bit of a delay on the down, which is not unusual on a helicopter, but the tail is actually quite tight. It's holding position really nicely. So there's definitely some issues on the flight controller, I would say, compared to what we're seeing of late. Partly because we're dealing with a brushless motor. On most of the new direct drive helis, you're gonna get into a brushless on the main rotor and a brushless on the tail. This is a brushed on the main and a brushed on the tail. But you do get the absolutely gorgeous body. You get the cool LEDs, which are really handy. And to be honest, I don't know why they're not on more helis. They're super cheap for these manufacturers because they're just SFD chip mounts. And so really it's not that big a deal to put a surface mount LED on these devices. They're extremely inexpensive for the manufacturers to get. I just don't think that people have griped enough to ask for them. And obviously the different colors are very helpful in orientation, but there it is. I was at 100% throttle just to avoid a collision with the couch. Now down and throttle cuts on. So let's talk about this for a little bit, because obviously I'm not doing anything too terribly fantastic in terms of flight performance, but I can definitely say this. Okay, initial thoughts are, I think it's a really cool design to have that, but I feel like what you make up for in cool factor, you lose in performance. And that's one of the things I'm experiencing on this 150X FX. And I can definitely say this. Did that light shut off? Yes, that light shut off. So I wonder if that shuts off when your throttle cut is on. Yes. Do you see how it fades in and out? Yep. That's really cool. So that's a cool safety feature. Now I want to talk to you about this, guys. We've flown a lot of helicopters on this channel on Brian Phillips RC. There are a lot of helicopters that are very easy to fly. This is probably not one of them. Now, that being said, it's not like it's especially hard to fly. I don't want to give the wrong impression here, but I definitely need to say this out loud. This thing doesn't fly as easy as I thought it might. So you want to be aware of that when you're buying it. So if you're buying this for your kids and they're not pilots and they don't know how to fly helicopters, which by the way, flying helicopters is hard. It is straight up hard. Even with auto leveling, it's sometimes hard. You'll note that I crashed into the couch. There was no damage to the cushions. In fact, let's give them a close-up. That's one of the things I would want to know as a parent if I'm buying my kids something, especially something that looks like it should be flown inside. There's zero damage here, okay? Our cats damaged this couch more than this thing did. Now, you'll also note that there is zero damage on the prop, which is really nice. And also, you see how easy those fold? Now, I'm not suggesting you run into yourself because it would probably hurt and you may get cut, but I would suggest that this thing is a relatively safe product, okay? So if you're thinking of safety concerns and dealing with kids that maybe are a little bit less reserved than an adult, somebody that has to fix the drywall when you hit it, might be, I would say that this thing ranks well. Now, this is a solid plastic blade. It's not like a hollow balsa wood that's coated with plastic. This is solid plastic, so it's got a little bit of mass to it. Also, I feel like the body on this helicopter is fairly sturdy. It doesn't feel very sturdy when you're holding it because it squishes a lot.
Oh, it does.
But the thing is, it's actually sturdy where it needs to be, and it's easy to take the battery in and out, which is surprisingly a big issue with bodied helicopters like this. This is a sweet looking helicopter. People get tired of seeing helicopters that look like this all the time. Now, I say that in the context of, yes, I love these helicopters, okay? They're sweet looking. I love the way they look. Competitive brands. Yes, I love the way they look. The whole point is, I love the way this looks, and I don't understand why we don't have more of these. And I don't think that it's got anything to do with the flight control system on this. I don't think it's like some connection between this particular style and the absence of very easy flight performance. I think that that just happens to do with the way that they set this particular one up. So I definitely am a little bit bummed that it isn't easier to fly because I want to take this thing off and I want to be bragging about how easy it is. That's one of the things we like to do when we bring you new products here on Brian Phillips RC is we want to come in and say, look how amazing it performs for the layman, okay? But that being said, if you're a more skilled heli pilot, you're going to have no problem flying this thing, okay? So I say that because at the end of the day, our word is valuable and we don't really sell that to anybody, even the companies that we really appreciate like Horizon, or in this case Blade, which is one of Horizon's products. Horizon Hobby makes E-Flight. Of course, they make Spectrum. They definitely don't make Futaba, which is weird that they use FHSS on this. That's totally weird. Also, I need to speak to the battery a little bit, just so you guys understand. Batteries that have polarity switched on the terminals, to me, it's just like kind of like a weird thing. I don't know why you would ever do that as whether you're Blade or you're Futaba or you're making a competitive brand or not. If you ask my opinion, these things should be always 100% of the time, always the same. There is no reason they should ever deviate from the same polarity structure. It's dangerous. You could plug this in very easily to the wrong aircraft and you could fry it. So the one good thing I can say is that this is a totally different looking battery than what we've seen from Spectrum, because Spectrum stuff is always gonna be wrapped in what looks like a smart pack like this. This looks very different, but not very different to like a 7-year-old or a 10-year-old. So you need to keep these things in mind. When we do reviews largely because we want you guys to know what's available and not necessarily to make up your mind, because many of you, are you gonna be able to fly this thing and enjoy it? Absolutely. But if you're a brand new pilot and you don't know how to fly, this is not for you. I would say this is probably somewhere beginner to intermediate. What do they say?
It's a 1.
They say it's a 1.
Yeah.
I don't often disagree point blank with Horizon, but I am going to totally disagree with them on this. Is a 2, okay? We've flown many 1s on this channel. This is not a 1. The camera crew would be scared to fly
I would
this.
not fly that.
Because you can always tell when I crash immediately with a helicopter or a product. Now we had the windows open, we had a little bit of a breeze going through, so that was an impact.
A little bit.
But this thing, where it makes up for in amazing cool looks, I think you're losing something with the easy to fly. And I would have loved to be able to say this is a 0.5, it's so dang easy, instead of a 2. But I firmly believe this is like a 2. Now a 2 is not a hard thing to fly. Let's just make that clear. And also, I think this thing would be more capable outside than some of its competitive peers. The peer competitors are not going to do real good outside because they don't have quite enough power. That all being understood, take that into your consideration when you're looking at buying the 150FX. I think it's a gorgeous helicopter. It probably is maybe a little bit inferior on control characteristics compared to some of the other competitive offerings. But where it loses on the competitive offerings for control characteristics, it's gonna make up with power so that you can fly and get penetration out in the wind, okay? So that's definitely something that's valuable to more the hobby grade stuff. That's why I kind of lean toward number 2 as well, instead of number 1. Number 1 would be like a beginner, anybody can fly it that has enough, muscle memory to be able to articulate, go forward, go back, that sort of thing. But that being said, this is not gonna fly exactly like a drone. It's gonna fly a lot like a drone, but it's a little bit harder to control. And then of course you've got this thing spinning, and I'm just gonna demonstrate, it spins. So, like you can hit something, okay? Whereas with a drone, you've got a ducted fan many times on the new ones where you've got a protective shroud that will protect the drywall or the stainless steel fridge or the, white fridge or whatever it is, and the cabinets and things if you would happen to bump into them. You still don't want to run into your kids. You don't want to run into hair. That's not fun at all for anybody because it does get stuck in people's hair. Don't ask me how I know. And then also the other thing is when you're flying this thing, you just want to be aware that it is definitely not a super small structure. This is a fairly good size heli. Now that also is a pro, and it is a big pro because a lot of times when you get into the entry level helis, they're very small. Some are about this size and they might even fly easier. But the thing is, easier is not always what you're going for. So I just want to make sure that I am totally truthful and also at the same time kind of fair to Blade. I don't think that they're I think skill level 1 is probably, a highly subjective thing, but I would say 2 for sure. And then also disappointed that's not DSMX. It'd be really nice to see that they would use a Spectrum product on a Spectrum quality heli, because I want to put it on my NX6 or my NX8 because that'd be cool. So definitely I've got some issues on this one. I like the way it looks enough that I want it. I just wish it was a little bit easier for the everyday out of the box flight experience. Now also, what other positives do we have? We definitely have safe. We have an easy radio setup. You literally do nothing to make the radio setup. Also, I don't know if you can fly this in a 3D mode. I didn't see anything in the manual, but if you can fly it in a 3D mode, then that would be kind of cool to see how that would work. And we might pause the video and just read that just to verify. Okay, so all those things considered, and I hope you guys are reading between the lines the way you need to. This helicopter is beautiful, okay? But this helicopter is gonna give you more bang for your buck by a long shot. And this one is gonna do all the upside down flying you wanna do, all the cool things you wanna do, and it's gonna do it with brushless motors. There is one big caveat, and that is you're gonna need to have a transmitter that you can set it up with, because this is a bind and fly and this is a ready to fly. So just to be clear, when you're talking about, there's one other thing we need to check on, and I'm pretty sure this thing is well below 250 grams, which keeps it kind of out of the hot water on some other things. but I think both of these helicopters are. So I'm gonna just turn this on, and this isn't all up weight, okay? So this is all up with the battery. We're 123 grams, you're definitely under 250. This one doesn't have a battery. I'm gonna make sure it balances. Oop. Yeah, so it's like 165. Okay, so now keeping in mind there's no battery in there right now, but it's gonna be under 250. So I'm just gonna say this right now. If you want performance, then I would highly recommend you consider the 150S over this. There's also the Nano, but I haven't flown it yet, so I don't recommend stuff I haven't flown, because there is, you know, like sometimes you see things like this and you're like, that's gotta be the cat's meow. And then you get it and you're like, wow, I'd really rather have recommended this in that price class. And again, we don't talk a lot about price on Brian Phillips RC just because like things change and we keep footage up, like we evergreen. If you're in the marketing world, that's what they call it, I guess. I don't know. This thing is gonna be evergreen. So hopefully this one will be the choice that's available. I just think brushless motors, 3D capable, but also has safe, okay? So you get that easy flying. And yes, this thing has the folding blades similar. So if you're running to the couch and stuff, you just gotta remember, this is gonna go a lot faster blade speed. You're gonna have more damage if you were to hit something inside. And yes, I have crashed into cabinets. Yes, I have damaged cabinets. I did that back with my CP1, which is a long time ago, way before Brian Phillips RC ever happened. And then I was banished to the basement that we didn't have at the time. We had a garage, okay? Then later when we moved into our house in Ankeny, then that's, yeah, I actually did fly in the basement, but I sucked. I never got anywhere because safe didn't exist. Right. Safe was the key for me becoming a pilot from what I was, which was a wannabe pilot. I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how to bridge the gap, and safe did it for me. That being said, even with safe, you just need to be aware this one's gonna, you know, do a little bit more drifting. You'll have to be a little bit more on it. Whereas this one, you can then flip out of safe and flip it upside down and do craziness, which is what you want to do as you advance in the ranks. Even if you're not going to be a 3D heli pilot, you still want to be able to go upside down once in a while and do some cool things. So hopefully this answers some of your questions about the Blade 150FX. Obviously, we had our small amount of gripes with it, but at the same time, it is still a very cool helicopter. It definitely does fly. It definitely performs indoor. And to be honest, if I'm looking at a helicopter this size, I want to know it can fly inside. If it doesn't fly inside, I kind of don't want a helicopter this size. Because once I get outside, I feel like I'm not going to see it good enough to be able to really enjoy it. And as you guys know from watching Brian Phillips RC for a long time, we have big open space here and we have lots of room to fly helis, even though we fly it in, you know, in front of the house where the power lines used to be. Awesome, they're gone. So anyway, hopefully this finds you in good spirits and you can get one of these for yourself because it's freaking awesome looking. And then just understanding that, just check your enthusiasm on the performance expectations, and I think you're gonna be fine then. But it's definitely got a different feel to it. I was hoping it'd be a little bit more locked in. So, camera crew, thoughts?
It looks really cool.
That's the positive. All right, cool. Well, in true fashion, Brian Phillips RC is going to be bringing you so much more. Guys, thanks so much for watching. If you want something that you can fly inside that's relatively easy to fly, skill level 2 in my opinion, not 1, then this thing will do the tick. This will do the trick. And you could check for the link in the video description below and get one for yourself. Don't forget, if you got 2 people in the room, you might need to get 2 helis, but maybe that'd be a good opportunity to get into something like this. And just keep in mind, before you ask, no, you cannot bind this to that. This is FHSS, which is not the same protocol as that. That's gonna be DSMX, and they are not compatible. So anyway, hopefully we've answered all your questions. And we hope that you guys will come back and watch more, which we will be producing all the time into perpetuity. So hopefully you'll be watching with us. And if you aren't getting notifications right now, you might want to click the bell for notifications, subscribe if you haven't already, and then definitely check the links in the video description below. That's the way you can support us with financial support from buying these things. And if you don't like this particular item, you want to buy something different or something else, we've got all those ones. And we have reviews of all of them in flight, crash, and all. So we hope you guys enjoyed it. Stay tuned, so much more to come from Brian Phillips RC. Thanks for watching.